From the heart of Hawkeye Nation comes the show that dissects the plays, debates the calls, and celebrates the victories. This isn't just a podcast. This is your unfiltered access to the mind of two diehard fans. They live and breathe black and gold, and they're here to give you the honest, raw takes you won't find anywhere else. Get ready for deep dive analysis, passionate debate, and a unique perspective on the team you love. This is Punting is Winning with JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye sports fans, to another episode of Punting is Winning, your all Iowa podcast. We are your hosts, Keith and JD. Welcome back. Pre-Christmas edition. We're just a couple of days away from Christmas at this point. 3, actually. 2 when this will actually air live, or semi-live, I guess, or recording, however you want to look at it.
When it comes out. Yeah.
When it comes out, yes. Let's take care of some business first. Let's talk about question of the week last week. Did the Heisman Trophy go to the most deserving player? And only had one person respond to that. A clear Texas Tech fan who picked a Texas Tech defensive player who, yes, had a great season. It's arguable that a defensive player can be the Heisman Trophy winner. Usually, it's an unprecedented thing to have a defensive player and earn it based. It's never happened on defensive merit only.
Right.
The one defensive player that just
Woodson
won it was also a return specialist. So I think that's actually what won it for him more than anything.
Probably.
So he's got a point where, I think he said something about
it's not
should be an award that goes to the most deserving player, not the player on the best team.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's always been that way, though. That's when you have an award that's voted on by people who watch football, but maybe don't necessarily, they're not watching and understanding the defensive side because it's not common for them.
Well, I'd even argue that some of them don't even watch football.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah. That is definitely for sure.
But I think they got it right. I think that Fernando Mendoza was, when we talked about this last week a little bit, I think he was the most deserving player. Especially when you talk about Indiana, where they have been and where they are now, the going from the basement to the attic. I mean, there's so much there that you have to provide them with awards, or it just doesn't seem fair to them.
Well, and I don't want to get too deep into the woods here, but I will use that comparison you just had. It really shows, we're talking a defensive player from Texas Tech being the 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Some could argue maybe they should have been the 3rd seed. I don't know. It is what it is. But it does go to show that in this day and age of college football, money can buy you playoff appearances. I mean, both those teams have a very, very deep pockets when it comes to their NIL, and you see what it's done for them.
Well, unfortunately, right now, that's the world we're living in. And until something changes, I guess that's just how it's going to be. And I just, at this point, until there's an absolute need to change and a desire to change from somebody that's got the power to make the change, it's not going to happen. It's going to be like this.
The only way it's going to change is if the powers like the Ohio States, the Alabamas in football, the Kansas, the Kentuckys, the Dukes in basketball start getting screwed over by it, and they stop being as productive and as dominant as they were. Then you'll see some change because they'll raise enough stink. Oh, this isn't right. We should still be dominating. It sucks that you live in a world where things come around to be a little bit more of a parity situation here because of it. And sucks that you guys don't like that. And that's what it would take to get it changed. It's going to take those blue bloods, those higher end elite teams or elite universities to raise a ruckus about it for it to get changed. And right now it's not happening because they're still on top of the heap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Anyway, you say you have a question of the week for this week?
This week's question of the week is, and this is a hot topic right now for Iowa because as I see this a lot on social media, will Iowa pick up a transfer quarterback? That's the question of the week. Okay. And I have thoughts on that if you want to hear them.
Go for it.
My thought is I would really prefer that they don't get a transfer quarterback in the portal. However, if a big name quarterback wants to come to Iowa and has shown an interest and has said, Iowa, I really want to come play for Tim Lester and I want to play in Kinnick Stadium, I sure don't think you'd turn him down. So at that point, I'm unless someone really jumps up and says, I want to play there, I guess you would roll with what you have.
Here's my thoughts on it. Maybe I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Number one, I want a quarterback that's not damaged goods.
Yes.
And those are hard to find because either you're not transferring out if you're a starter more. And if you are, you already have a destination in mind. You already have somebody who's tampered and offered you enough money to come to their university. Yeah. So you're not going to get those players. So all you're going to get is the guys that either got hurt or the guys are looking to jump up a level or those guys that just didn't really perform as well as they thought they should have or that was expected of them, those 5-star kids that just don't come in and earn that, automatically get handed the keys to the kingdom. Those are the guys you're going to get. So if that's the case, from what I've heard, I'm okay with running with what we have in the room right now.
Yeah, that's my initial thought is let's do that unless somebody just says, hey, I must play for Iowa and I will take a little bit of nothing to do it. And I don't think that's going to happen.
And I don't see anybody doing that.
No.
The only way maybe a situation like that happens is if you've got a university where a coach has been fired, a coach has left or whatever, and that kid's like, I just don't want to play for this new coach that's coming in, or I don't know what the new coach's system is going to be. I'm just going to look elsewhere. And that's the only time I feel like you're going to find somebody in the portal, unless you're tampering up front. I'll just get that out of the way right now. Unless you're doing that up front, you're not going to get the big names because they've already figured out where they're going to go. If they're leaving a university because of money, it's not going to be going to Iowa because Iowa can't offer the money that other universities are offering and shouldn't.
It'll be interesting to see what happens between the time that the playoff ends. And I know that the transfer portal actually opens up before the actual playoff finishes. So, I think you have to leave it open for those players that are on the playoff teams for them to, finish up their season and then still have the opportunity to enter the transfer portal. I'd hate to see that it ends before the final game and then the kid says, I really wanted to, but I didn't want to leave the team before the championship game or whatever. Let's say let's just use for an example. Let's say Lincoln Keenholz. He was talked about a little bit last year about wanting to come to Iowa potentially. He ended up staying at Ohio State. Ohio State's number 2 in the nation. They're odds-on favorite. They're probably going to make the championship game or at least the semifinal. Let's say, they go ahead and play the championship game and let's hope it's Indiana and Ohio State playing again. That was a good game. I'd like to see it again. And at the end of that game, he's like, oh, I wanted to transfer, but now the transfer portal is empty or is closed and I can't do that. But I didn't want to lose my eligibility. I wanted to play or at least be on the sidelines with my teammates. That's kind of where there's an issue there, but
so let me play a little devil's advocate here. Let me throw one name out there and tell me what your thoughts are. Rocco Becht.
Rocco Becht's going to Penn State. I don't think there's any other.
Let's just take that out of the equation. Let's say he's available.
1 year left.
He's available. Would you take a flyer on him? I wouldn't. I just don't. I've not been overly impressed with him. I don't think he might be a product of his system, and that's why he's looked good. He's kind of like Brock Purdy. He choked in the big games, and we've had enough of those.
If he really wanted to come to Iowa, I guess I'd look at him closer. But I just seriously don't see that happening. And even in a scenario like you're saying, I just don't. I don't feel like that he would ever want to come to Iowa for any reason whatsoever. I just don't see it.
And I'm not advocating for that. I'm not saying that I've heard anything. I'm just using that as an example of would you take a flyer on a person like that who's, that's a situation where the coach left and you've got a starting quarterback who's not injured, who doesn't want to stick around and play for the new coach or whatever.
It'd have to be.
I'll tell you what, I've also seen signs that Bo Prabula is going back to Penn State.
Oh, really? I knew he was getting ready to enter the transfer portal out of Missouri. So
yeah,
I know that Iowa was between Iowa and him, or
Missouri.
Yeah, for him. So I don't know, maybe.
But again, you're taking a flyer on a guy that's been hurt. Is he fully healthy? Granted, that's a different situation. It's an ankle or whatever it was. Was it broken leg? Something like that.
I don't know what happened to him.
I don't know. I say you roll with what you got. You spend the money on skill position players that you need.
Right. Receivers. Somebody that you can get the quarterback. But, a lot of people would argue though, if you don't have a quarterback, why would you need receivers?
Well, like I said, if the reports are true, we have a quarterback on the roster. I just need to see it for ourselves and potentially have one coming up that's a incoming freshman that's very, very good.
Yeah, well,
but we've heard that before too.
Let's hope that we don't have a situation where we get a 1-year wonder and it just pushes everybody back, and then people get kind of upset and say, "I think I'm going to transfer. I've spent 2 years on the bench here. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm the next year is supposed to be my year, and they end up getting a transfer quarterback in, and I'm done. I've been promised too many things, and none of it's been delivered. So it just." If Jeremy Hecklinski or Hank Brown, I keep saying Seth Brown, it's Hank Brown, turn out to be the number one quarterback and we run with them this year, I'd be certainly fine with that. But my thing is, if that's what you decide, then you need to commit to it. And as a coaching staff, you need to commit to it hard and coach those kids up. And by the time they hit the ground running in spring practice or even up to the fall, they better know that playbook front and back. They better know their reads. They better understand exactly what we're wanting to try to accomplish with each play.
Yeah.
No more just running with the one guy and the other 2 or 3 guys behind him feel like they're not on the same page necessarily because they're not getting the reps and the time. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing it, but it seems like when you've got our number one quarterback in there and he gets hurt, like when Gronowski got hurt at Indiana, it seemed like there was a huge drop off after that. And there shouldn't be that big of a drop off. A lot of schools don't have that big a drop off. They, some do, but you're at a Big Ten school and you talk about winning championships.
Your number two better be your number 2 quarterback better be your 1B instead of your number 2.
Right.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So,
well,
anyway, we can beat this to death if we wanted to.
We'll talk about Iowa next week. Yeah. Wow. Men's basketball. What can you take from that Bucknell game? The fact that we're down 10-2 and end up winning 94-39.
Yeah. It's like it took them 5 minutes before they woke up, and then it was like, oh, hey, yeah, that's right. We have a game today.
Yeah, and I thought they played really well in a foreign environment because neither team had ever played there. I don't know that maybe Drake had played there last year, and so some of the players maybe were
possibly
kind of used to it. But, yeah, to go out and win 94-39 and just really not have it be in doubt. I saw 10-2, or I was watching it, and it was 10-2. I'm like, oh, is this how this is going to be? And then next thing I know, I look up and it's 25-10. I'm like, okay, this is better. Now I feel better.
So, the one thing I could take away from that is I did stick around and watch the Penn Rutgers game afterwards because I kind of wanted to see what Fran McCaffrey's team looked like, and it was a mirror image of what we saw over the last 15 years. With a little less talent, but they took Rutgers right down to the wire and lost it in typical Fran fashion of not being able to hit free throws at the end and give up a 3-point shot with 0.6 seconds left. But I'm sitting there thinking as I'm watching that game, my thought process is, my God, this Iowa team would absolutely destroy a Fan McCaffery-led team. And this game today that we won 94-39 would have probably ended up about 102-80 had it been the last year.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that even with the talent that Iowa had on the floor last year against the Bucknell team that like they have, there's no way they're holding them under. There's no way they're holding them under 40 points. That's for sure. I would say you'd be very, very pressed to hold them under 70.
Well, Iowa had a lot of talent last year. It's obvious that they had the talent. The problem is it was one-dimensional talent. They didn't play defense.
Yeah.
There was no talent playing defense. It was all offense. And hey, if that's the way you want to try to win games, this is what you get, is you get, left out of the tournament by one game, or, you're on the bubble clear up to the last weekend. And then boom, you're out of the Big Ten tournament in one game, and, you get left sitting on the sidelines. You don't even get to go to the NIT because you decide you don't want to.
Well, here's the other thing
is,
is,
or whatever it is.
That philosophy of trying to outscore your opponent works great if you're the superior team. Mm-hmm. That's perfect formula for the Iowa teams to beat up on the mid-majors and the smaller conference teams. It's not going to work against. I mean, clearly we've seen it. It didn't work that well against the quality teams of the Big Ten. Now it would work against the lower end of the Big Ten because they played similar to yeah. True. At times, there were times they lost games definitely shouldn't have lost. I just don't see that with this team. I see this team being different. The emphasis on defense, and it's just, even with an emphasis on defense, they're still a high-scoring team. It's not like they're going out there and they're holding their opponents to 39 or 45 points a game, and they're only scoring 50. No, they're still averaging close to 80, 85 points a game. I mean. Mm-hmm. That to me is a best of both worlds. I don't need you to go out there and beat teams 105 to 9 or to 70. I want you to go out there and beat teams 80-40, because then I know your offense is good and your defense is elite. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that Iowa's defense is elite yet. It's very good, but it's elite compared to what we've seen over the last 15 years.
It is refreshing to watch Iowa play defense. It is something that we have been missed. We have just missed on that for so long. To see a team being held to 39 points is just you just sit back and say, where was this? Why can't we do this? We couldn't be doing this 2 years ago, or we couldn't do this when Luka Garza was a senior. Why couldn't we play that defense? Why didn't we have a coaching staff that emphasized defense? That team, if they would have played the defense that this team plays, Elite Eight, Final Four team easily. Yeah. But it was just like, defense is an afterthought. And
I'd rather let them score so I can get back on the offensive end.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe we get lucky and they miss a shot and we'll rebound it and get back on the offensive end.
I feel like we wasted our talents.
Absolutely. And you think of it is you see it with the guys that left. The teams that they left and went to are feeling that pain as well. Look at Creighton. Creighton's terrible. Mm-hmm. And Owen Freeman, I don't think has he averaged more than 5 points a game over the last 8 or 10 games.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. He's got something going on with him in his head, or he's injured, one of the two.
Well, I think he just was told that he was much better than he was. Mm-hmm. And he might have been a product of Fran's system of high, that was, I'll give him credit. They could teach the offensive side. They could teach the post moves and all that. They had those guys operating in the post pretty well, pretty efficiently. Again, the big knock was they couldn't play defense. So maybe this is now they're going into another system and they're told they have to emphasize a little bit more on the defensive side, and that really detracts from their offensive abilities. They're putting too much effort. They have to put more effort into the defensive side. So now the effort on the offensive side is less. I don't know. I don't watch Creighton that much. I have watched a few games just to see how those guys do. I think Josh Dix, Owen Freeman, games that I've watched haven't stood out.
No.
It's not like they went there and like, oh, like they're one of the best players on their team. No, it's not that way. And it's the same way with every one of them that was on the team last year. I've tracked all of those guys.
Price Sanders honestly having a pretty good year.
Yeah, he's the one exception. I'd say the other one that's probably really bettered himself from the year before was Carter Kingsbury.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Carter's getting. I mean, he's averaging probably 32 minutes a game.
And who's he with again?
Citadel.
Oh,
now, granted, it's a lower level, and but he bettered his situation.
Yeah.
Had he stayed at Iowa, he'd probably be maybe
no more than
coming
in
about the time that Mattione was coming in, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Jacob Cooks of the world,
right?
A little bit sooner than that, but I don't think he would have bettered himself like he's done. Mulvey has done squad at Siena. I don't think he's played much more than about 4 or 5 games. Taggio hasn't played a single game at UNLV yet. No, sorry, Santa Clara. UNLV has Dembele, and he was, I don't know, he last I looked, he was like 7 games he played in out of the 11 they played, averaging like 3 points a game, something like that. Just nothing that you'd say, oh, well, we really should have retained those guys, or we wish we could have retained those guys. Like I said last year when all this went down and Fran left, is do we really want to keep those guys? That's the same. It would be the same thing of guys that don't play defense, that don't want to play defense. Now, Cooper Koch stuck around, figured out, hey, I've got to learn to play defense, and he's been valuable.
Yeah.
And it's translated. He understands it. I don't have to go out there and be the guy that scores 15 points a game. I've got guys around me that are averaging, 8 to 10 points a game. And if I get 6 guys that can average 8 to 10 points and one guy that averages 18, hey, we're looking at 75 points a game.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Defense and hold people. That's the one thing I like.
Yeah, I do like that about Iowa, that it spreads around, and you've got a lot of times you've got different players leading the team in points. Like this game, we had Alvaro Figueres 17 points, Tavian Banks right behind him with 16 points and 9 boards, and and Bennett Sturtz led Iowa in assists, which he typically would. He's the point guard.
But he only had 8 points.
Yeah, he didn't. Well, he didn't need to. That's the thing. He didn't need to wow you with his scoring.
And that's the one thing I did like, is the fact that, hey, he only played 24, 25 minutes that game.
Yeah, it wasn't much, and really didn't need to.
And it was the same the game before.
Right.
So getting him a little bit of rest and not overutilizing him or just wearing him
out. Yeah.
I think it'll be the same thing
need him. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, UMass-Lowell. But let's go back to Iowa Bucknell. Iowa shot 60% from the field. Bucknell's 37%. Iowa shot 38% from 3-point, but Bucknell's 22%. Iowa shot the free throws well, 83. 32 rebounds to 15. Here's where the game got out of hand for Bucknell.
I know where you're going.
Iowa had 9 turnovers. Bucknell had 25.
And 18 of those were steals.
And then I was going to hit steals next. 19 steals for Iowa, 5 for Bucknell. So those 2 stats I had circled was turnovers for them and steals for Iowa.
Did you say Iowa had 8 turnovers?
9.
9 turnovers for the game.
Mm-hmm.
They had 5 in the first 6 minutes.
Yeah. They didn't look good the first 6 minutes, like they were trying to get things figured out.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, I was going to say Iowa plays next on Monday, the 29th at 4 p.m. versus UMass-Lowell. They are 5-9. So they've played 14 games up to this point. They'll probably play another one. That is on the BTN. Then we'll probably cover this, but then Iowa will play in Iowa City against UCLA on January 3rd. And also Iowa's up to 25th in the poll. I thought we talked about that. The AP poll. So
23rd in the coaches.
So yeah, cracking the top 25. I think a win against UMass-Lowell, and maybe the next week will be at 24-23.
Well, I don't think there'll be another bracket come out before we play another game.
Yeah, I guess because Monday.
Yeah.
So we won't play a game, and there'll be another ranking come out. So that's fine.
So I would imagine they'll stay roughly the same. Might jump up a spot or two. Just
if somebody in the 20 to 25 get beat, 20 to 24 get beat.
The only thing I can see is if some of those that are on the receiving votes line win while we're idle, will they jump us? The Kentucky. That's one I look at as, name brand is gonna trump us anyway.
Of course.
But anyway, so we have the one game in a week.
Yeah, week from today.
So
yeah.
All right, well, let's talk a little women's hoops as well.
Okay, so we all knew Iowa was up against it on this game, the women. They went out to the Barclays in Brooklyn, New York, and they did as expected. They lost to number 1 UConn 90-64. Iowa was led in scoring by Hannah Stolke with 17 points. She also contributed 5 assists. Ava Hayden snagged 6 boards. Iowa slipped this week to number 14 from number 11. Just want to make sure I point that out or I'll forget it. Field goal percentage. Now, here's the situation here. Iowa, if you looked at these stats, you would think to yourself, this was a close game. Except one stat. I'll get to that in a minute. Iowa shot 49% from the floor to UConn's 52. That's 3% difference, not a big deal. Iowa shot 47% from three-point line to 45% from UConn. Close, not a big deal. Free throw percentage, Iowa shot 75% to UConn 71%. Iowa 30 rebounds to UConn's 22 rebounds. It's a close game. There's not really much going on here. Assists, Iowa 19 to UConn's 22. Here's the one that cost Iowa. UConn had 9 turnovers. Iowa had 25. That is what killed you. That is what destroyed your ability to stay in the game. And don't get me wrong, UConn, absolutely one fantastic team, and I think they're odds-on favorite to win the whole thing again. I don't think there's really that many teams that are as good as they are. I think there might be a few that'll hang with them for, 3 quarters. But when they really want to, I kind of felt like there were times in that game. And have you ever seen a cat with a mouse that they've caught and they just kind of let it live and they just kind of bat it back and forth with their paws before they end up eating it? That's kind of what I felt like UConn was doing to Iowa. We're just kind of batting them back and forth, and then when they needed to, they just took care of it.
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. So first of all, and again, I don't want this to be twisted as this is me making excuses or anything like that. I did have an issue with how the game was called when it came to some of those turnovers. Some of those turnovers were clearly fouls. They were playing through the offensive player to get to the ball, to turn the ball over, right? So, I mean, they basically just reaching through them. And there should have been some fouls called. I'm not saying that would have changed the outcome or anything, but what bugs me, and I noticed it when you talk the Iowa State men's game, the Iowa State women's game, the UConn women's game, Michigan State, Iowa men's game against Michigan State. The teams that are considered the better team, the elite team, the Michigan State, the Iowa State, and the UConns, shouldn't need the benefit of a favorable whistle to win a game if they're that good. So you follow what I'm saying? So if we're going to consider Michigan State a great team, they shouldn't need a beneficial whistle all the time to win a game against an Iowa team. Now, granted, that was a 19-point game. Let's use Iowa State, for example. They had the benefit of a lot of favorable calls, both men's and women's. And that is a turning point in those games. If they're that good, you don't need to help them with the benefit of a favorable whistle. That's what bugs me a lot about watching some college games. And sometimes I have to just turn it off because it aggravates me so much that you don't need to help them if they're that good. You shouldn't have to help them. If they're going to lose, they should lose on that merit of they just didn't play well, not because they didn't get the benefit of the whistle. Now, some teams are good because they get the benefit of the whistle. Some of Michigan State's teams in the past, very good because they got the benefit of the Izzo treatment of he's going to jump all over the officials and get his favorable whistle the rest of the game. But if you're a good team, you should not need to win that way. And I would feel bad if I was a good team to win that way.
Well, but they're not going to see it the way you see it. That's the thing.
No, I'm seeing it as a fan's perspective. I'm not seeing it from a player's perspective or a coach's perspective. I'm looking at it from a fan's perspective of, yeah, I see a bias. You know, it's kind of like the whole ESPN propping up the SEC all the time. It's a bias that we know is there. We see it. We know it's going to happen when you go to the Breslin Center. We know it's going to happen when you go to Ames. That Hilton Magic is, you know, we're going to be on top of the officials and make them feel so scared to make a call the wrong way against us that they feel like their lives are in danger. You know, but as a human being, if I'm winning a game that way, I don't feel good about it.
Let me ask you a question. You said you sat and watched the Penn and Rutgers game the other night. Did you feel like there were favorable whistles to one side or the other?
At the end of the game, absolutely.
In favor of Rutgers?
Rutgers.
Okay.
Yeah, there were some calls that I was like, yeah, I don't know why are you calling that? That should not happen. You know, that is maybe it was a jump ball situation. I can't remember. There was one that was like, should have been a jump ball situation. They called a foul, or there was times where guys just went right over the top of another guy and no call. And I'm like, yeah, this is how you keep a team in a game that isn't playing well.
I saw something the other day. I kind of questioned it a little bit because I just didn't seem right to me. I was watching a women's game. I want to say it might have been USC and somebody. And there was a situation where it was a loose ball, and one of the USC players kind of reached out and pushed it towards one of the other players on their side. It went out of bounds, but the defending player was kind of between the ball and out of bounds, and it looked like there may have been a touch from one side or the other, so they really weren't sure. So they just threw their fingers up and went jump ball. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not, you shouldn't be doing that, because first of all, you should make a call one way or the other. Either it's USC ball or it's the other team's ball. And then if they want to challenge it, then you can challenge it. But you should make a call. You shouldn't just throw your fingers up and say, oh, I'm neutral, I'm Switzerland, I'm just going to let this thing play out, and whoever's got the possession arrow gets to keep it. To me, that was a bogus way of doing things. You have to make a call. Call what you see or don't see, or if you ask the other referee if he saw something, he said, I didn't see it, then you say, this is what I saw, and then make a call. And if the other team's adamant that they didn't touch it, then they can do the old thing like this and review it, and then you can get the call right. So otherwise, make a call, be confident with it, and say it's going the other direction, and then just out of bounds it and let's go. I see two issues with that, and not just because I'm not just disagreeing. I firmly believe in what you're saying, and I agree with it. However, here's what I would say. There's too many opportunities for an official to really affect a game in that aspect. If they look over and they know that, oh, well, so-and-so team does not have a challenge left because they don't have any timeouts, and I say, well, I think it goes this way, even though I don't know, they can't challenge it.
So now I've just either given an advantage to a team that maybe didn't deserve it, or made the wrong call, whatever.
But
That's one call.
But I can see that though too, that they know who the possession arrow goes to also, and they can say, well, if I call a jump ball, then this team gets it regardless.
That was my counterpoint, because I don't think they can challenge a jump ball. They can challenge an out of bounds, one way or the other, if they have a challenge. So it's kind of
why it's there. The challenge. The challenge is
well, but again, if there's no timeout, you can't challenge. So if you can really influence well, I know this team doesn't have any timeouts left, I'm just going to say it goes to the other way, even though I don't really know.
Well, that's
see what I'm saying? Even if you call a jump ball and the ball's going the other way, you're getting the same result.
Well, but by the same token, though, if you're having problems holding on to your timeouts and you call timeouts just willy-nilly, and then you don't deserve to have the ability to challenge them at that point. You should always keep one behind till maybe 10 seconds left in the game, and then if you want to call it, go.
Okay, let's just say that they used their challenge 2 minutes before that on we're in the last 3 minutes of a game, and they had to use a challenge on an out of bounds that could have gone either way. Now they've lost their challenge. Now they don't have it anyway. So, I mean, you can look at it in any way you want.
Then the referee just has to make the call and go with it. Then you don't have a choice.
Yeah. I don't
there's a human error. If there's a human factor in it and they make an error, hey, that's, it's not like we haven't seen human errors before. It's not like we haven't seen referees make mistakes. It's fine. One little out of bounds call, which I thought was kind of questionable how they handled it. I wouldn't have done that personally had I been a referee, but I would have made a call one way or the other. If the last time I saw the ball being touched, it was a USC girl hitting it, that's the call I would have made. If the other girl actually did hit it and I didn't see it, my problem, I got blocked. I saw what I saw. And if the other referee couldn't come in and verify that he saw the other player hit it, then I guess we're going off of USC, go the other direction.
Yeah. There's different ways to look at it. I just think there's a lot.
I just think throwing your two thumbs up and saying it's a jump ball is kind of a cop out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I just think there's ways you can manipulate it one way or the other, either way. So.
Okay. Well,
depends on how honest and dishonest you want to be.
We're going to make this a short one tonight. We're going to let people have a little break from us and make it a little short. Iowa, like I said, dropped to 14th. They will play a home conference game against Penn State on December 28th, and that is Sunday at 3 p.m. Penn State is 7-5, and that game will be on the BTN, the Big Ten Network.
That's good chance for a bounce back.
Yeah, I think Penn State, that's a winnable game, especially at home. Yeah. We already played the one away game to Rutgers.
I think at this point, Penn State, Rutgers are probably the two bottom teams in the conference. I don't know the standings wise, but
I don't know the standings either. But just from what I'm seeing, I think Minnesota's a better team than they were last year. I think Wisconsin's a better team than they were last year. I think Indiana may not.
How good would Minnesota be if Sarah Williams was still there?
Well, Sarah Williams played for Wisconsin.
Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry, I was thinking Minnesota, but yes, you're right.
Yeah. And I was one that said when she hit the transfer portal, I said, that's one Iowa needs to get. And she went to UConn, which I guess I can completely understand that. Why wouldn't you?
I think that was a foregone conclusion.
Probably.
Again, some tampering going on there.
Yeah. Good chance of that, I would guess. I think Indiana's maybe not as good as they were last year.
Michigan is head and shoulders above where they were last year.
Michigan's way better than they were last year. I think UCLA is down a little bit. I still think they're good, and I think they'll be right there. I think USC's down a little bit also. I think maybe Oregon's a little bit better. There's a lot of teams there in the middle. There's going to be some jockeying for position at the end of the season for, who's going to get what. If there's going to be, I think Iowa's good enough, they'll probably be in the top 4 or 5. So I think unless they have a meltdown halfway through the season and go on like a 6 or 7 game losing streak.
It's not happening.
I don't see it happening either, but that's a possibility. It happened last year. They lost 5 games in a row last year,
Yeah.
and then kind of rebounded and made the tournament. But I think if they can avoid, a fairly decent series of losses in a row, I think they can, be a top probably 8 seed.
I could foresee them being like 23-6 going into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and then if you win a couple games there and make it to at least the semis, you might be a 6 or 7 seed.
Oh, I'd say if you could win a couple games and make it to the semis in the Big Ten tournament, you're probably at least a 4 seed.
Depends on how you finished up your season.
If you're 23-6 and you finish, 25-7, in that conference, I think that's going to get you a 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's hope it does. I'd like to see the first
Depends on
round
what
game
everybody
be at
else
Iowa
does.
City.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but
anything else?
Okay. No, I was just going to say, did you want to hit on any topics that we haven't touched on yet?
No, because we'll hit playoff stuff late next week and preview the Iowa Vanderbilt Reliaquest Bowl. Give our thoughts and predictions on that. We won't have a ton. Next time we'll only have one women's game to cover at that point. So we'll dedicate that more towards football at that point. So, yep, we'll wrap it up with that.
Okay.
So make sure you give our videos a like and a subscription if you haven't already subscribed. Check out our merchandise on the merchandise store. Check us out on social media, and just appreciate you listening and watching and giving feedback whenever you can. And just hope everybody has a safe and happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
We want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, and thank you for watching and subscribing.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, we'll give it a go Hawks and get out of here.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.